And we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Jessper Maquindang. If you're here to build a stronger team and a more effective company culture, you're in the right place. In each episode, we have guests who share strategies, tips, and ideas to help you and your people thrive. And I'm very excited to introduce today's guest. Ryan Batchelor is a Naval Aviator with 29 years of service, founder of Crux Leaders LLC, a husband, and father of 9 kids. He is a certified working genius facilitator and a speaker, coach, and trainer with Maxwell Leadership. He champions leader development and aims to add value through all possible avenues to businesses, churches, nonprofits, and other leaders. He is a collaborative author in 2 best-selling books, Voices for Leadership Volume 2 and Connected Leaders Academy Leadership. He also publishes a free monthly newsletter focused on personal growth. Let's welcome Ryan Batchelor. Ryan, how are you?
I'm great, Jessper. Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. I'm very excited about today's topic on personal growth. I'd like to know, Ryan, can you tell me more about the research in the field with any statistics that are relevant to the work you do?
Sure. I've actually been reading a book lately that is directly on this topic, and it's called It's the Manager, and it was written by Jim Clifton and Jim Harder. You might recognize Jim Clifton's name from Clifton Strengths. He's the founder of it. And so this book is basically the collection of 30 years of data that Gallup has collected across 300 of the world's largest organizations and millions of employee interviews within those organizations. And the statistics that came out of that study are pretty eye-opening and should be of interest to any CEO, any human resources director, any chief operating officer, because they reveal some problems in the company cultures within America.
Wow, that is interesting. And I was looking into the research as well, and I found, according to Cornell University, they were studying the idea of regrets in life, and they found out that over 76% of people report wishing they had pursued more personal growth earlier in life. Ryan, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that statistic.
Yeah, 75% is a really high number. And I know what I've discovered personally and what I've learned through coaching and interacting with other Maxwell Leadership speaker, coach, trainers is that once people experience the results of a personal growth plan that they implement regularly, they go, how did I ever survive without this? That's what their response is. And so that statistic doesn't surprise me, but the number is really high. And so we'd like to eliminate that number and bring it down significantly to something that seems more reasonable, like 15 or 20%. Seems like a lot more reasonable.
Speaking of really high numbers, I found another interesting statistics, and this one is from Talent Smart Survey, and they discovered that 80% of adults admit they do not have a long-term plan for their personal development. I want to get your thoughts on that.
So there's 2 types of people in this world, Jessper. One set fall into a fixed mindset, and they believe basically that what they were born with is what they currently have to work with, and that they can never make improvement on that. And there's a large percentage of the United States population that's in the fixed mindset camp. And so they have no need for personal growth because they don't think it adds anything to them. The other percentage of people are in the growth mindset, and they believe that they can grow, that they can improve, and that each person is a individual continuous improvement project. And so the only way to do that is to have a personal growth plan like you were talking about. And so we want to move as many people as we possibly can from the fixed mindset camp to the growth mindset camp.
Ryan, I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I pulled something from Professor Carol Dweck, who was responsible for that growth mindset and fixed mindset research from Stanford University. And she found that people with a growth mindset have 33% higher life satisfaction, 34% greater career success, and 43% higher resilience. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Ryan.
Yes, and Carol Dweck's research it's the premier research in this field. And so her numbers are validated by lots of data and lots of studies that she has done. And those have all been backed up by multiple other individuals in the same field. So those numbers are not surprising to me. I've certainly seen it in my own experience. I've seen it with people that I have taken through a mastermind on the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, which is a John Maxwell book. And at the end of that book, you basically have developed a growth plan for yourself that's tailored to you. Because my growth plan might not work for Jessper, and Jessper's growth plan might not work for one of my fellow employees. And what works for you is what you need to figure out. And what works for each individual is going to be different. And that's okay, as long as it works for you. And so once you find something that works for you, you can experience those numbers that Dr. Dweck talked about. And those are numbers I would think that people would want to pursue. I mean, everybody wants more life satisfaction. Everybody wants to feel fulfilled in the job that they're doing. And you can get there through personal growth.
That is an excellent point. And I do want to share one more statistic, but I was curious to know, was there any other research you wanted to share on your end?
So some of the numbers that came out of this Gallup survey, I think, are eye-opening, just like the statistics that you shared. The first one is that only 22% of workers strongly agree that the leadership of their organization has a clear direction for the organization. 22%. So that's a really low number. That means less than a quarter of your employees understand the direction that the organization is taking and why. And so if anybody's ever read the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why, which if you haven't, you should, it will explain to you exactly why it's so vitally important that employees understand the why. They also have to understand the how and the what, but you have to start with the why, because people want to understand why they're doing something. We can certainly order somebody to do something, and I'm familiar with that concept from my years in the military. But you will automatically get more buy-in if you can explain the reason why that's the direction you want people to go. And so if we can move workers from 22% saying that the organization has a clear direction to something more like 75 or 80%, you're going to see a massive improvement in your organization, which is going to translate to sales. It's going to translate to revenue. It's going to translate to satisfaction amongst employees. And all of those things are going to be things that CEOs, COOs, and HR directors should want.
That's a massive opportunity for growth. And thank you for sharing. Was there any other research you'd like to share with us?
Two more pieces of information from that study. The first is that only 41% of employees strongly agree that they know what their organization stands for and what makes it different from competitors. So if only 41% of your employees know those things, then that means there's 59% out there that can't sell the company. They can't sell the company. Even if they're not in sales, we should still want them to be able to sell the company to people that they talk to. But if they don't know what their organization stands for and they don't know what sets them apart from other competitors, then they're just as likely to sell the competitor across the street or the competitor that's in the next city over than they are to sell yours. The last one is that globally, 85% of employees are either not engaged or are actively disengaged at work. Now, this number has increased significantly since COVID. So we're still feeling some of the effects in organizations from the COVID time period where there was less engagement at work because people were forced to work from home, and we had less cohesion amongst the workforce. And so some of these numbers support the fact that we're still suffering from that.
Very interesting. And pointing out to some of the statistics you shared earlier, employees are part of our brand. And if they don't understand what our organization stands for, I mean, they might as well be, like you said, selling our competitors. But yeah, really getting our team members to really understand what our mission and values are, that really makes a difference in how the organization functions as a whole. And Ryan, thank you again for sharing those stats. One more I wanted to share with you. Since we are talking about intentional growth, I found something from Nielsen reports, and their research discovered that without intentional focus, the average person spends over 2 hours per day on social media and nearly 3 hours per day watching television. Ryan, wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So I talk about 4 steps to personal growth. And the first one is that you have to be intentional, which means you have to have a plan. So what gets planned is what happens. What you put on your calendar is what you execute. So if you don't put any personal growth time on your calendar and you don't plan any of it into your day, I can guarantee you one thing, and that's that it won't happen. So we have to prioritize personal growth. Now, I do that by setting aside 1 hour on my calendar every day. It doesn't always have to be at the same time. I keep that hour flexible. I can put it at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can put it at lunchtime at 12. I can put it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But it needs to be a 1 hour block of time on my calendar every day. There may be a rare day where I go, well, the only way for this important meeting to happen is to schedule it over that 1 hour. That should be a rare occurrence. Otherwise, you have to preserve that time, and you have to be intentional about using that time towards your personal growth. And what I found when I started doing this was that the rest of the time that I was doing my work, whether that was 7 hours of the day, 8 hours of the day, 9 hours of the day, was better utilized, and I was more efficient during that time because I had taken that 1 hour to focus on intentional growth.
Intentional. That makes a really big difference. Now, while we're on the topic of this subject of intentional growth, let's take a deeper dive. Brian, I'm very curious to learn more about your journey. What gave you the passion to really jump into this field of personal growth?
Yeah, it really started in 2012. I was in a military assignment in Wichita, Kansas, and I was one of the group leads in the organization, but not the commanding officer of the organization. But then the commanding officer got sent to Afghanistan on a 1 year duty, and so I took over as the commanding officer of the unit. One of the things that the individual I took over from that got sent to Afghanistan had been doing is he'd been doing monthly leadership training with the organization, and we were doing it on John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, which is kind of the flagship book for Maxwell Leadership. It's the book that has sold the most copies over the years, and so at that time we were looking at a video series that was on CDs. I know that some of the audience may not know what we're talking about when we talk about that, but as I said, this was a number of years ago, and so I just asked him. I said, "Hey, can I keep this material and keep doing it?" Like we had only gotten through maybe 10 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and he said, "Sure." So he left it with me, and I started doing these monthly leadership trainings with the entire organization. And when I did that, I started learning a lot about myself personally. I started learning a lot about my leadership because I had to learn more than what I was teaching. And so that really started me on a journey. That journey really got lit in 2017 when the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth book came out. And I read that book. I did a study on it. That's when I established my personal growth plan, and I've been doing it consistently ever since.
Excellent. And now that you have developed this growth plan, can you tell us more about your 4 steps to success?
Sure. The first one, as I alluded to already, was be intentional. You have to make a plan. If you don't know what that plan should look like, pick up the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It'll help you do that. Or you can get a hold of me. We'll talk about how to do that later. The second thing you've got to do is you have to choose areas that you want to grow in, and they should fall into 2 categories. The first category should be areas of skill, and the second category should be areas of choice. So I'll define what those mean. Areas of skill should be things related to the jobs or roles that you hold. So if you believe that to advance in your job, you need to be better at strategic planning, then you need to add strategic planning as a topic to your list of skill areas that you want to grow in. Or maybe you have to do lots of presentations. And so you know that your communication needs to get better, or your public speaking needs to get better. So you can add both of those to the skills area. You make a whole list of skills that you need to improve in to do better in your job or your roles. This could also include things that you need to do at home. Maybe you need to improve your patience so you can be a better father. Maybe you need to improve the way you show love to your spouse. You can put that on the list too. And then for the areas of choice, you want to put things that you want to grow in that get you excited. So for example, if I want to write a book, and I'm excited about that, then I should probably put writing as one of my areas of choice. That might not be an area of skill that I necessarily need to do better in my job, but it is something that I want to do and that I'm excited about. So I need to put it in my areas of choice. Maybe I'm really passionate about developing other leaders, so I can put develop others in the choice category. You want to have a mix of skill and choice, because sometimes the skill things are not that exciting. So we want to have things that we're growing in on the choice side that do excite us, so that when we do spend our time on personal growth, some of it we know is aiding our career and helping us do better and possibly get promoted in the future. And the other are things that we're passionate about pursuing. And so it keeps us moving forward. So you got to create a whole list of growth and, skill and choice areas that you want to grow in, and then pick one from each list, one from each category to grow in at a time, and work on those for a while, and then pick 2 new ones. Those are the first 2 steps. The third step is to put that hour time on your calendar. You can start by putting it on there once a week. Try Fridays. Just put it on there for Friday. And then when you're able to do that, then put it on there for Tuesday and Thursday. And then when you're able to do that, put it on there for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And eventually you'll have it on there every day of the week, because you'll want to do it. So I call that plan executive time. That's the third step. And the fourth step is to teach others, because you will solidify everything that you know and that you're learning when you can teach others. It will be solidified in your life. And if you are not doing the things that help you to grow, you'll feel like a hypocrite if you're teaching it and not doing it. And so it keeps you accountable to yourself if you teach others. Now, some people shy away from that word teach. They go, well, I'm not in a position that I can teach. With social media and the ability to communicate to people all over the world, there's multiple ways to teach now. You don't have to be like a college professor who's up in front of 200 people using chalk on a chalkboard. You can just make a post on social media. You can say, hey, I was reading this the other day, and put something out there and try to get people to engage with it. You can write a blog or a monthly newsletter and put some of your information in there. You can make a video and post that about what you're learning. That way you're not speaking to an audience if that's what makes you nervous. All you're doing is speaking to the computer and hitting record. And so there's lots of ways you can teach. So don't shy away from that. So quick review, the 4 steps are: be intentional, choose areas of skill and choice, plan your executive time, and teach others.
Excellent. And Ryan, with all things considered, overall, what are the benefits and outcomes when people are more intentional about their personal development?
Sure. So, I mean, the easiest one is that you're going to do your job or your roles better. You will become a better employee, and that will get noticed. Hopefully, that results in a promotion for you and more money, so you can best take care of your family. But maybe it just means you're a better spouse. Maybe it just means you're a better parent. Maybe it means you're a better brother or sister or grandfather, or whatever your different roles are. Depending on what happens, then those things will improve. It will get better. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you will find that you hunger for more. You will find that, I want to do this, and my desire to do it continues to grow. And so that momentum will make it easier to keep doing it every single day. And I think the third thing is that you'll find a passion to pass it on, whether that's encouraging people to do a growth plan just like you are, whether it's different avenues of teaching. You'll find a way to pass it on that you're excited about. And that could open up whole new avenues of development for you that you never knew was possible. If you had told me 20 years ago, when I was flying P3s for the Navy, that I would eventually be a leadership consultant and helping organizations be more effective and efficient in everything they do, I would have been like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I would have been like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But yet today, it makes complete sense to me. And it makes sense to my spouse. It's like, this was just the natural thing for me to do.
Those are some great benefits and outcomes for really being intentional about our personal growth. And as we take a deeper dive, I'm just curious to learn more about this topic. And I'm curious, Ryan, from your perspective, what do you believe holds most people back from making personal growth consistent or intentional choice?
Yeah, there's a couple reasons. The first one is usually they feel like they don't have the time. So they're like, make this a priority. I think you can't. We timed out there for a second. Hopefully we're still good.
I see you.
So I would say you can't afford not to. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I would say you can't afford not to do this. And once you start, I think you can discover that on your own. But initially, people will be like, I don't have time to do this. There's no way I can fit this into my schedule. I will tell you, just put it in there and see what happens. And you will find that it's advantageous to you to have it in there. That's the first thing. The second thing is probably a little bit of ego. I think we all think that we're very good at what we do. The statistics are probably like 80% of the people think they're very good at their job. But if you ask their managers, the managers would say that only 20% of the people are good at what they do. There's some sort of disconnect there. We think we're really good at what we do, but the people that we're responsible to don't. So there's a disconnect there, and there's obviously a little bit of ego involved there. Pursuing personal growth doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It just means that you're acknowledging that you can always take one more step forward, and you can always improve just a little bit each day. And if we take that perspective, we'll find out that there's even more growth than we thought possible. Because what happens when you walk 1 mile or 5 miles or 10 miles is you find that there's actually more distance in front of you than you thought there was.
Excellent insights. And I was curious to learn, for leaders who want to promote intentional growth in their teams, what advice would you give them?
So the first thing that I would say is, first you have to lead yourself. So you have to make sure that you are personally doing the things necessary to grow yourself, your leadership, and to be the best that you can be for your organization. Make sure you have that down first. Then after that, you need to provide leadership opportunities for everybody else on your team. And that can start by being the same thing for each person. So you can do something as a group, and you can provide some sort of training or material or discussion points for the entire team. But at some point, you have to start to individualize that, because some members of your team will be very good at communication or very good at public speaking, and they don't need help there. Others will struggle with communication or public speaking, and so you need to provide more targeted help to them in that area. Some other members may be very proactive or may be really good at strategic planning, and others need help being proactive because in the past they've just been taught to sit back and wait and be reactive, and they have no idea what strategic planning is. So you can start with general and the same training, but eventually you'll need to individualize. And as a manager, that can be hard. That can be challenging. But I would encourage people to look at the 5 levels of leadership, which is a separate John Maxwell book. It comes with an assessment, and it comes with steps that you can take to increasingly have influence over those on your team by moving up the levels of leadership. And what you find is that not only will people follow you because they have to, which is level 1, at level 2, they'll follow you because they want to. At level 3, they follow you because of what you've done for the organization. And at level 4, they follow you for what you've done for them personally in terms of development. And at level 5, they follow you because of respect. And so you increase your influence at each level. And if you can move up those levels, you'll help your team immensely.
And I like what you pointed out earlier, having these personalized and customized for each individual employee, because when it's more relevant, they'll feel a lot more engaged. And I was curious to know, Ryan, what are some questions people should ask themselves to spark deeper growth?
Yeah, the first would be, how far can I go? Right. So admittedly, the name of my company, Crux Leaders, is borrows a climbing term. The climbing term is the crux is the most difficult part of a climb, whether you're hiking, whether you're on a rock climbing route, whether you're ice climbing, whatever. The crux is the most difficult portion of that climb, or the most difficult moves on that portion. And while it combines my passion of leadership and climbing mountains, the only thing I don't appreciate about it is that it gives the impression that there's a summit to be reached, that there's a top to be reached. And the fact of the matter is that when we think we've reached the top, we usually find out that there's actually more to go. It's actually a false summit. I thought I was at the top here, but now I see that there's actually more that I can learn. There's actually more that I can do. There's more room for me to grow. So that's the first question, is how far can I go? The second question would be, who do I want to take along with me? Right? Do I want to just go by myself? You can do that, but it's generally not recommended that you hike alone. You usually want to take a group of people with you. So the second question is, who do you want to take with you? Maybe you want to take your spouse. Maybe you want to take your kids. Maybe you want to take the rest of your team at work. You have to decide who you're going to take with you. And then the third question would be, just how do I go about doing it? Because if you Google leadership, you're going to get over 1 trillion hits. Now, that number is a really big number. I don't know what to do with that number. That number just overwhelms me, right? So you want to know how you're going to do that. And that's a question that a lot of people will just give up at because it seems so overwhelming.
Those are excellent questions. One can ask themselves. Now, I know you reflected on your journey earlier, but curious to learn a little bit more. So looking back, Ryan, what would you tell your younger self about the importance of being intentional about growth?
Yeah, I would definitely want to tell my younger self that you have to decide what's going to be the priority. Because if you just let things happen, then the things that you want to happen will not happen. Other things will happen, but they may not be the things that you want to happen, because accidental growth doesn't occur. There are other things that can be accidental, and they generally don't help us out because anyone who has been in a thermodynamics class knows the principle of entropy, and entropy says that everything moves towards disorder. And so we have to make sure we insert order. And so that's one thing I would tell my younger self. The second thing I would tell my younger self is go ahead and get started now, because I realize after kind of starting this journey in 2012 and really in earnest in 2017, that the things that I've learned over the last 8 years would have helped me in the previous 10 or 15 prior to that. But I didn't have that yet. And I could have been a lot further along by this time if I had started it back then. So those are the two things I would tell myself.
Wow, interesting things to reflect on. And before we wrap up, Ryan, what's the best way for people to reach you should they want to learn more about you and the work you do?
Sure, I'd love to talk to anybody about the work that I do with organizations or just leaders in general. So there's a couple ways to find me. The first is you can go to my organization website. That's at www.cruxleaders.org. People can also email me at ryanb@cruxleaders.org. You can also find me on both LinkedIn and Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's just Ryan Batchelor STL. That's St. Louis because I live in the St. Louis area. On Facebook, I have both a personal account and I have an account for Crux Leaders. So you can look up Crux Leaders on Facebook as an organization and you will find us there.
Excellent. And Ryan, before we go, what is your final piece of wisdom for our audience?
Yeah, my final piece of wisdom would be don't assume that personal growth won't work for you. Try it out, and you will find that it has amazing results that you will crave after that. And so that is the best way to get started on your journey. Take that first step. You can trust me. You can trust Jessper. You can trust the leadership experts that are out there that I've talked about today, John Maxwell, Patrick Lencioni from the Table Group. You can trust those individuals if you want. Just take that first step and you'll find that it's very worth it.
Excellent piece of wisdom. It reminds me of the piece of research I shared from Cornell. And again, over 76% of people report wishing they had pursued more personal growth earlier in life. So as Ryan said, just take the first step. Really makes a difference. Wow, Ryan, really enjoyed today's conversation. So many insights that I picked up. And to everyone out there, we hope you did pick up some great insights from today's conversation. If you know any leaders who would benefit from these ideas, feel free to share it with them. Last but not least, again, Ryan, thank you for such a great conversation. For everyone out there, thank you for tuning in, I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Jessper.